Failure does not begin when you miss the target. It does not begin when the world rejects you. It does not even begin when you fall short after giving your all. Failure begins much earlier, quietly and visibly in the hesitation before the first move. Most people fail before they even start, not because they lack talent, but because they lack the courage to burn the bridge between who they are and who they could be. They kill their own momentum before it is born. They tell themselves they will try when the timing is right, when things settle down, when they're ready. But the truth is, readiness is a mirage. You do not get ready by waiting, you get ready by moving. The greats understood this. Edison was not ready for his first invention. Carnegie was not ready for his first business deal. Disney was not ready for his first park. But they stepped forward anyway because they understood that the act of starting forges the very readiness others spend years waiting for. Why do most people never take that step? Because they are prisoners of permission. They are waiting for someone to tell them it's okay to try, that they are qualified, that they will be safe. But life does not hand out permission slips for greatness. It will never feel safe. It will never feel certain. You have to rip the seal off the future with your own hands and declare, I'm going. Mindset is the first executioner of dreams. The mind that sees obstacles before opportunities will kill an idea before it breathes. You can watch this happen in real time. Someone gets a spark, a flash of vision, and before the fire catches, they smother it with questions. What if I fail? What if people laugh? What if I'm not ready? But ask yourself, what if you win? What if they admire you? What if you are more ready than you've ever given yourself credit for? The difference between the builders of history and the spectators of history is that the builders allow the first thought to be the spark, not the smoke. Henry Ford was told by investors and engineers alike that his vision for the automobile was impossible. He could have taken their "what if it fails" and worn it like a chain. Instead, he asked, what if it works? That question drove him forward through ridicule, resistance, and repeated setbacks until he reshaped an entire industry. Most people never even ask that question because they are too busy collecting reasons not to try. Belief is the foundation, but it is also the battlefield. And here is where most people lose before they begin. They outsource their belief to the opinions of others. They let the skepticism of friends, the doubts of family, or the silence of strangers dictate what they are capable of. They forget that belief is not a consensus, it is a decision. Edison did not run surveys to see if the light bulb was a good idea. Lincoln did not take a poll to see if the Union was worth preserving. They decided, and that decision became the axis around which their lives turn. Clarity is another weapon that most never sharpen. They begin vaguely half knowing what they want, but never crystallizing it into a target they can hit. Without clarity, action becomes scattered energy leaks, and the journey feels endless. Andrew Carnegie didn't kind of want to be successful in steel. He decided that he would dominate the industry, and he organized every resource, every relationship, every ounce of focus toward that single aim. Most people fail before they start because they never get that clear. They want to be successful, but they cannot define it. They want freedom, but they cannot measure it. Without definition, there is nothing to aim at, and without an aim, there is nothing to hit. Vision is the architect of achievement, but most never put pen to paper in their own mind. They think vision is optional, something that comes after you make it, but in reality, vision is what gets you there. Walt Disney walked the barren ground of what would become Disneyland as if he were stepping through the gates of a fully built kingdom. He could see the rides, hear the music, smell the popcorn before a single shovel broke the earth. That kind of vision doesn't just predict the future, it creates it. Most people fail before they start because they only see the empty field. They cannot hold the image of what could be long enough for their hands to build it. Purpose is the fire, and without it, even the smallest setback will extinguish you. This is why so many quit before they begin. They start with excitement, but not conviction. Excitement will carry you through the first week. Conviction will carry you through the first decade. Lincoln's conviction for the cause of unity was so strong that even assassination threats, political betrayals, and endless nights of war could not shake him. If you start without purpose, you will stop the moment the wind changes. Discipline is the gatekeeper. You can have belief, clarity, vision, and purpose, but if you lack discipline, you will never cross from idea to reality. Most people fail before they start because they believe discipline is something you develop after success. They do not realize it is the very cost of entry. Henry Ford's production line was discipline turned into machinery, each bolt, each gear, each movement repeated with precision. That is what turns a dream into something you can hold. Action is the bridge, and yet it is where most stand frozen. They overthink, they overplan, they overanalyze, and while they wait for certainty, the opportunity evaporates. The greatest victories in history were claimed by those who moved while others stood still. Carnegie didn't wait to have all the steel mills in place. He started with one. Edison didn't wait for the perfect filament. He tested thousands. Action reveals the path in a way thinking never will. And here's the deepest truth. Most people fail before they start because they are addicted to the illusion of getting ready. They confuse preparation with progress. They polish the same plan for years. They consume every book, every podcast, every seminar, and still never take the first step. Preparation has its place, but it becomes poison when it delays the leap. You do not need more time. You need more courage. You do not need more approval. You need more commitment. You do not need to know the entire road. You need to take the next step. The door does not open when you stand in front of it thinking. It opens when you push. And if you push long enough, hard enough, often enough, you will realize the truth that every builder, leader, and creator eventually learns the hardest part is not the middle, it's not the end, it's the start. Not because the start is the most dangerous, but because it is the moment where you must win the war with yourself. The voices in your head will tell you it's safer to wait. They will remind you of every past failure. They will whisper that you're not ready. Your job is not to silence them, it is to outwalk them. Step by step, day by day, with a kind of certainty that turns someday into done. Because the truth is the moment you start with conviction, you are no longer one of most people. You have already crossed the invisible line where failure is no longer decided by circumstance, but by whether you keep moving. And the day you understand that you will never again fail before you start. The war before the start is fought in silence. No cheering crowd, no spotlight, no applause, just you, the weight of your own doubts, and the quiet ticking of a clock you can never turn back. This is the battlefield where most dreams are buried, not in the chaos of competition, but in the stillness of indecision. And the cruel truth is, the world will not mourn the dreams you never began. It will simply move on, and you will be left with the echo of what could have been. That is why you must understand action is not a luxury, it is oxygen. Delay is suffocation. You may think you are avoiding risk by waiting, but every day you hesitate, you are compounding a different kind of risk, the risk of becoming the person who watches others live the life you wanted. Look through history and you will see it over and over again. The ones who changed the world are not the ones who waited for an invitation. They were the ones who walked into the room without one. Henry Ford didn't wait for industry leaders to approve his vision for the assembly line. They told him it was madness. They told him it was impractical. But he wasn't asking for their blessing. He was building what they couldn't yet imagine. That is the mindset you must carry. You are not here to seek permission. You are here to create proof. Most people fail before they start because they confuse fear for a stop sign, when in reality fear is a compass. It points you directly toward the thing that matters most. If you feel resistance, it's because there is something at stake. And if there is something at stake, that is exactly where you should begin. The presence of fear does not mean you are unprepared. It means you are standing at the threshold of growth. Edison stood at that threshold thousands of times. 10,000 failed experiments were not signs to stop. They were signs he was still in the fight. If he had waited for certainty before taking his first step, the world would have remained in the dark. That's what you must remember. Certainty is the reward, not the requirement. Clarity is a weapon you sharpen through movement. Most people sit in the planning stage trying to think their way into clarity. They map every step, imagining every obstacle, and still, they don't move. But clarity comes in the doing. Carnegie didn't have a perfect blueprint for his steel empire before he began. He learned through each negotiation, each investment, each failure. He understood that the map is drawn by the one who walks it, not the one who stares at it. And here's another reason most people fail before they start. They underestimate the cost of inaction. They only measure the potential pain of failure, never the certain pain of regret. Regret is heavier. Regret is the weight you carry every day when you know you could have tried but didn't. Regret doesn't just sit in your mind, it seeps into your identity. It changes the way you see yourself in the mirror. It erodes your belief one day at a time until you stop reaching altogether. Walt Disney faced bankruptcy, rejection, and the mockery of peers who saw his dreams as childish fantasies. But to him, there was no alternative. He acted as if the park already existed, as if the characters were already loved, as if the laughter was already ringing through the air. This wasn't delusion, it was discipline. He held the vision so vividly that he became incapable of building anything less. Purpose is what gives you that kind of discipline. Without it, you will rationalize your way out of starting every single time. Purpose makes the discomfort bearable. Purpose makes the uncertainty exciting. Purpose makes the price worth paying. Lincoln's purpose kept him at the helm of a fractured nation when others would have stepped down in exhaustion. His clarity of mission outweighed the chaos around him. That's what keeps you in the game long enough to matter, knowing exactly why you started in the first place. But here's the last brutal truth about why most people fail before they even start. They are in love with the idea of success, but allergic to the reality of sacrifice. They want the glory without the grind. They want the title without the trial. They want the result without the repetition. And so when they see the first hill ahead, they convince themselves it isn't worth the climb. Sacrifice is not punishment. It is the toll you pay for entry into the life you say you want. The reason the few achieve what the many don't is not because they were spared from sacrifice, but because they embraced it faster. They didn't see the cost as something to avoid. They saw it as proof they were on the right road. And when you finally understand this, something shifts. You stop trying to avoid difficulty. You stop stalling for perfect conditions. You realize the start is messy by design. You are meant to begin without enough time, without enough money, without all the answers. Because the process is what makes you into the person who can handle the finish line. If you could see what waits for you on the other side of the first step, hesitation would die instantly. The opportunities, the growth, the resilience, the allies you haven't met yet, they are all standing on the far side of starting, but they will not cross over to meet you. You have to step into their world, and that step will always feel heavier than it is. Once you take it, momentum begins to move with you. That is the difference between those who only dream and those who live the dream. The first group waits for momentum to arrive. The second group creates it by moving before they feel ready. And if you want the world to take you seriously, if you want to stand among the few who can say they lived without the weight of what if, you must do the one thing most never do. You must start. Starting is not just a physical act, it is a declaration to the universe. The moment you take that first step, you send a signal that you are no longer a spectator in your own life. You are done waiting for someone else to write your story. You are done living in the safety of maybe someday. You are stepping into the arena where the air is thinner, the ground is harder, and every move counts. And here's the paradox: once you start, you will wonder why you waited so long. You will realize that the monster you built in your mind was nothing more than a shadow cast by your own hesitation. Fear magnifies in stillness. Action shrinks it. Look at Edison. To the outside world, 10,000 failed experiments look like 10,000 reasons to quit. But to him, they were 10,000 steps closer to the answer. He didn't start because he knew it would work. He started because he knew he could work until it did. That is the mentality of the unstoppable. They don't begin with certainty in the outcome. They begin with certainty in themselves. The truth is, the first steps will be ugly. They will be awkward. They will feel small compared to the grand vision in your head. But small steps compound. The first call leads to the second. The first page leads to the chapter. The first sale leads to the business. The first repetition leads to the transformation. Everything big begins embarrassingly small. This is why clarity matters before you start. Clarity does not mean knowing every step, it means knowing where the steps lead. Andrew Carnegie didn't have the entire map of his empire before he began, but he knew exactly what mountain he intended to climb. That singular aim allowed him to filter every decision, every investment, every conversation. Without clarity, you will start and then drift. With it, even your mistakes will carry you forward. But clarity without discipline is wasted fuel. Most people fail before they start because they are addicted to short bursts of motivation and allergic to consistency. They want a lightning strike to change their lives, but they ignore the daily flame that must be tended. Discipline is how you carry the vision on the days you feel nothing. It's showing up when there's no applause, no excitement, and no visible progress, because you know that progress is being built in the unseen. Walt Disney understood this. Long before the gates of Disneyland opened, there were years of planning sketches, budget crises, and skeptics. And yet every day he acted as though the park already existed. That's the secret act, as if it's real until the rest of the world has no choice but to see it too. Most people fail before they start because they measure their capacity by their current resources, not their resourcefulness. They look at their bank account, their resume, their network, and decide they are not ready. But the greats began with less than you think. Ford didn't have the factories before he had the idea. Carnegie didn't have the steel before he had the deal. Lincoln didn't have a united nation before he had the will to fight for it. The resources came because they started, not before. Here's the law you must understand: the world responds to movement. It ignores the idle. Doors open for those who knock while walking forward, not for those standing still rehearsing their knock. And when you begin to move with purpose, you will find allies, mentors, and opportunities appearing in places you never thought to look. They were always there, you just couldn't see them from the sidelines. And yes, the start will test you. It will strip you of illusions and force you to meet the truth about your own resilience. You will be tempted to turn back. But here's where most people lose: they mistake discomfort for danger. Discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is the gym where your future strength is trained. Every muscle of your mindset, every fiber of your belief is torn and rebuilt in the discomfort of the beginning. When you stay in the fight long enough, something remarkable happens. Momentum joins you. It stops feeling like you're pushing a boulder uphill and starts feeling like the hill is carrying you forward. That is the reward of beginning with persistence. It flips the weight from resistance to propulsion. But you will never feel that unless you get past the starting line. And so I will tell you this without softening it. The difference between the life you want and the life you have is not luck. It is not connections. It is not timing. It is the decision to start and the refusal to stop. Everything else is noise. You will either be the person who tells the story of what they build, or the person who tells the story of what they almost built. And the moment you take that first imperfect, unglamorous, unapplauded step, you choose which story you will tell.